phone here. Thank you for calling Stand Up Strong. Who is this?
This is Attorney Tara Hopper Zeltner. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Tara? Attorney Tara, I should say.
Tara's fine. Thank you. I'm doing very well.
Great. And as we told our audience, we have Tara Hopper Zeltner, who specializes in healthcare and regulation laws. And you're also lobbying for mass can normal. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
That's correct.
And why don't you explain what that is to our listeners?
What MassCan Normal is? Normal stands for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Mm-hmm. And essentially, they've been involved with Question 2 regarding the decriminalization of marijuana, Question 3 regarding the Massachusetts Medical Marijuana Act, and now they've been part of the most recently passed Question 4 regarding the recreational use of marijuana in Massachusetts.
And it does seem that it's changing, but there are people who have issues with it still. How are you going through that to let people know? Now, you're working for the legalization of medical marijuana. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, we already have the legalization of marijuana. The people have spoken. They voted through the initiative petition, and they voted on it, and it's all, I mean, the people they want it. It's just a matter of what is the bill going to look like once it gets through the legislature. They've appointed a joint legislative committee on marijuana policy. They're having their first meeting at the State House on March 20th. And we're doing our lobby day on March 15th between 10 and 4. We're going to be going there, talking about our message, and we would like a bill that does not look but, you know, we have what was passed, and then we have a lot of people trying to take away, like not allow you to have the amount of plants that we voted on. And we're trying to make it that we don't have any limits because there are a lot of misconceptions about how much, you know, a person actually gets out of a plant.
Now, one of the things I've been seeing is a lot of towns are voting against allowing the medical marijuana shops to open up. And since, you know, when you go to your council or your selectmen and they have the votes, probably about 6 people show up. Who, you know, so you know, it's probably not what the whole city or town wants, but it's what the people who show up want. How are you working to stop towns voting for this, of not having the legal shops to open up?
Well, there was a study done, and I mean, I've seen this. I've had different people contact me that are interested in opening up a dispensary in various towns and cities throughout Massachusetts. And what I'm finding is that even if they do create a particular zone, if they're able to get zoning, they'll do an overlay and they'll put it in an industrial area or a commercial area where they don't have the ability to buy the property. They are having to go through a building manager who has been reluctant to put that type of shop within their shopping center because they're afraid it's going to take away from their other businesses. And, you know, they're not addressing it in a way that it's going to allow, they're not creating the zones in such a way that's allowing them to put them places, because these places already have people, you know, leasing the buildings. I actually called a couple of places that I was driving around trying to help this person find a place to put their dispensary with a particular client. Another completely different scenario. But, you know, was looking at the building thinking, okay, this looks more like a place that they store their stuff. There are never any cars here. They don't seem to utilize the space for actually office space or anything. So I called there and was like, you know, would you be interested in going someplace else for the different things? Just looking for anything, because there are so many roadblocks. They're not zoning in places where there are buildings available to buy.
Now, is this against the law, or do they have the right to not zone for these dispensaries?
Well, I mean, it's a really good question. And if I mean, I don't want to speak in absolutes because, I mean, with the laws, there are never any absolutes. I mean, they always said, drove me crazy in law school my first semester, and just every single question they would ask me, it was like, it depends, because it really does. I see it as, this is a medical issue. If you have a doctor that is giving you a prescription, I mean, because we're talking medical marijuana right now, because the recreational has not been, they're still working on that legislation. That's still, yet to come, and it will. But right now it's a matter of access to medical care. And I mean, that is something I can see as a potential lawsuit.
Really?
How far that would go, and depending on the jurisdiction, I don't know. But it would be really interesting. The lawyer in me would love to just, sit back and watch it unfold, because it would be very interesting, because I don't think that they should be, it's such a
that would be
subject.
because
it's such a
it's legal, but they're setting up rollback. It'd be like, but you see that before from people who, I don't want to make equates one thing, but people who are against strip clubs, you see they set up rollbacks of that, and there has to be a big fight. It would be an interesting case. And how would you go about, if you had to go to court, someone hired you, how would you start helping these to be able to move into a community?
Well, first of all, you have to go to the particular community, and you have to look at their bylaws, ordinances, figure out how their particular areas run, whether it's selected, through the city council. I mean, every area is very specific. I mean, you're dealing with the municipality, and then you have to go through the different regulations that apply, and then look at this. You have to look at all layers of the law, the regulations, the statutes, the local ordinances, and that makes it specific to each area. And, at the same time, I respect the fact that certain communities don't want to have certain things in their neighborhood, but to block it at to provide such little residential or industrial space, that's not fair either. There needs to be a balance. And I believe that that's what, well, I can't say all courts, because you can't, again, it depends, but
that's why you go up the chain, right? Yeah.
For something, that would be justice to me if people were able to get, have the balance of, being able to control what they like in their neighborhoods, but still be able to have access to medical care. And that is what we are dealing with here. It's not marijuana because, like reefer madness. We all have the research that shows that that's not an issue anymore. People that believe that, it makes me laugh. It's sad, but I just show them the facts. I show them, the research, and there's, that's very outdated information. It was outdated back then, but they tried to hide the studies that came out, but that's another story. But that's why I like working for the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis. I just started working there, and they have a fantastic program that provides you with information from the history of marijuana to the cultivation, talking about preparation and propagation of the plants, the different phases. I mean, it teaches you the business concepts. I would teach the laws and regulations piece along with another instructor, and it's great. It's a shame that the Agency for Professional Licensing has been holding on to their applications since September 2014, and those are usually processed in about 6 weeks. But all these different things, zoning, in a way to block something. People put in an application to the Department of Professional Licensure, and then for some reason they can't say why the claim's just still open and under review. But if they deny it, then they have to give back the money. So they just hold on to it. They're in complete compliance, but
No, you were talking about the now it's the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis.
Cannabis, correct.
Yes, and they're out of where?
They're located in Natick.
Natick. Now, you also you mentioned that you were talking about the history. Quick question would be, now, when and why was marijuana made illegal? I mean, I've heard stories, everything from Dow Chemicals went illegal because they wanted nylon ropes instead of hemp ropes. I heard of someone who was in charge of prohibition, whatever government. Now that prohibition was over, he fought to make marijuana illegal to actually give himself a job and keep his department going. I mean, you've heard all these stories. What was the actual main reason?
I mean, there's some truth to everything that you just said.
So it was
it was...
No, go ahead.
I mean, there was the whole campaign against marijuana started between 1930 and 1937. I mean, the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics was there for like 32 years, and his name is I'm drawing a blank right now. Anslinger?
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I read that, yeah.
Yeah. And, there were a lot of racial different undertones to why he had a lot of the opinions on marijuana, because there are earlier statements showing that he didn't think that there was anything wrong with it, and then later on he starts talking about how bad it is when it was there were situations similar to like what the current administration is wanting to get certain undesirables, and I put that in quotes in a very sarcastic way, banning certain individuals but just to put it bluntly, for racist reasons.
We call it a religious ban.
There was a lot of that going on, that there were undertones of that as far as, okay, well, Mexicans and they're talking about people of color. I mean, we could go back and I could just give you some quotes I don't want to get into it all right now, but it's, basically interracial relationships being a result of smoking marijuana. I mean, there's all of these things where I was just horrified. And I've only learned this, truthfully, within the past month or so, since that particular piece as far as the racial element. And, I can't say I was surprised. And I see a lot of, that racism continues to thrive in America and all over the world, I suppose.
We're going to have to take a quick break. I do have a lot more questions, so can you just stick around while we go to our commercial break? We'll come right back and get back onto this topic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks.
So you're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck, and we're going to be right back after this break. We have Attorney Tara Hopper Zeltner, who specializes in healthcare and regulation law and is also working on medical marijuana. So we're going to be right back after this. You're listening to Stand Up Strong, and just stick around. We have a whole lot more.
Considering building a new home, adding an addition, or renovating your existing house? BTA Building and Remodeling of Abington can save you time, money, and frustration. BTA is a team of highly skilled professionals who understand just how important your project is to you. From site-built homes, custom modular homes, to in-law suites and additions, they'll treat your project with the time and effort it takes to do the job right. Before you choose a builder, you owe it to yourself to visit btadevelopment.com.
Do you have cast iron furniture, metal fences, or custom-made aluminum furniture that is still usable but needs a little TLC and extra care? Then you need someone with a great reputation in over 32 years in the welding business. You need All Weather Welding Company. Based out of Southeastern, Peter Michelson of All Weather Welding Company has the know-how and has worked on projects such as the Pavilion in Boston, the Dunkin' Donuts Warehouse, the Food Service Cisco, the Xfinity Performing Arts Center, as well as local businesses and homes throughout the South Shore. They specialize in rims, chairs, custom-made aluminum furniture, metal gates, window grates, and so much more. All Weather Welding Company is the only certified portable welding service that is advertised in this area. No job is too small, and all his work is guaranteed. If you think it's broken, call All Weather Welding Company at 508-238-8595. That's 508-238-8595. Mention this ad and receive a free welding rod.
Check it out, it's the Terminator. Hey, when'd you get back, huh?
Did you have to shoot anyone?
Why are you so distant? Are you not happy to see me? So what's the deal? You gonna get a job now or what?
Why are you being so jumpy? Put all that stuff behind you, okay?
No one knows what it's like to come back from Iraq or Afghanistan unless they were there. Join other veterans at communityofveterans.org because we know where you're coming from. Brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
1530 WVBF Talk Radio.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck. And on the phone, we have Tara Hopper Zeltner. Tara, you still there?
I'm still here.
Good. I didn't hang up on you. I'm getting a lot better on the board. One of the questions, actually, one of the PSAs we have for veterans. Now, is it true that medical marijuana, does help? And let's talk about the benefits. Helps soldiers coming back with PTSDs?
Absolutely, yes. I actually just met with a really great group of veterans a couple weeks ago. Actually, they were at the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis. And the personal stories were just heartbreaking when people did not have access to the cannabis, the marijuana, because, I mean, these were people that were previously on, it helps with post-traumatic stress disorder. It helps with a lot of the pain and the problems that they're having. The stories that I was hearing, which is not surprising because I used to work in mental health and I'd see people over-medicated all the time. But, they're just given painkiller after painkiller and all these things when all these addictive substances. I mean, and there are so many studies that are out showing that, using marijuana as a pain reliever actually, reduces the opioid addiction. And people are not using all of the oxycodone and the Vicodin because they have access to the cannabinoids. And they're talking about how this changed their life. A lot of people, these veterans were talking about how, when they were given these different psychotropic drugs or different painkillers, that they were, putting them in a more zombie-like state, making them feel not like they weren't able to function very well. And then these are addictive substances. The opioid crisis is, not news. I mean, it's horrible. And we have something here. We have medical marijuana that there are studies that show that this reduces opioid addiction. It seems common sense.
It cracks me up sometimes because when people talk about being addicted to heroin and then they wean themselves off and they get, what's that other thing? The thing that they give...
the methadone.
Methadone, right. So, and then heroin was actually invented to get people off of morphine back in World War I, maybe, or II. And then so you figure...
it keeps evolving.
Yeah, it just keeps on. So, 25 out of 50 people, they say, who smoke marijuana regularly become addicted. But, people who drink coffee all the time drink coffee all the time.
Yeah.
No.
Well, all these new drugs, they give them an opportunity for these pharmaceutical companies to make money, right?
Oh yeah, well
this is the thought.
Isn't that one of the reasons why, and they made it illegal, is because it couldn't be controlled because you can grow. It's a weed. I mean, believe me, as you say, weed will grow, come out of the sidewalk. It is. You can grow it pretty much anywhere.
It's a much more complicated process than that. I mean, I think I don't necessarily have a green thumb. I mean, I'd probably wind up killing the plant.
Well, it's not like
someone said at it. And I know people that grow that it takes a lot of knowledge and work to really know how to grow a plant properly and be able to get the medicinal qualities out of it. And that's why it's, the limit on the plants. There's all these assumptions that people are getting, they're going to have all these plants and, they're only getting 2 to 3 ounces per plant. And that's if you have amazing, abilities in a really large space. I mean, the average person, and that's only harvested every 6 months, each one plant. But I mean, and that's somebody who really knows what they're doing. the average person is not likely not going to get that.
Right, and I think I heard someone says if you can grow a tomato plant, you can grow a pot plant.
But you can grow it, but that doesn't mean that it's
going to be great.
Yeah,
it's going to be great tomatoes.
You got to pick it when they're ripe. You know what I mean?
I could grow a bush in my front yard, and it's just going to look horrible, and it'll grow.
There you go. And that's it. Everybody's going to grow pot plants in their front yard.
Oh no, actually, you can't do that. I wasn't speaking about a marijuana bush. That's actually one of the restrictions that passed. I mean, you can't have it visible.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. You
can't. In your basement's fine. One of the things, though, and we kind of the opioid addiction, and because I hear it when I watch the traditional media and they're interviewing someone, it seems like they always say a couple of things, but one of the always things with the opioid addiction, we shouldn't be growing marijuana. Is marijuana that addictive as the other drugs that they're scared about, and rightfully so?
I mean, the Washington Post article that came out on February 28th. I mean, it responds to Attorney General Sessions wanting to know the science on marijuana and opioids, and I'd be happy to get a copy of the article to you because the short answer is just absolutely not. I mean, it's just not. I mean, there's the original report that came out in, I guess, the prohibition of marijuana occurred in 1937, and in 1944 there was the LaGuardia Committee. It was the first in-depth study into the effects of marijuana and the addiction, and they said in that study that this does not meet the criteria of addiction in the medical sense. And people were very upset, saying, "Oh, there must be an error in this," and just basically wanted to squash it. And here we are, from 1944 to 2016 when this was passed. Now 2017, it's like, wow, really taken us this long?
It's true. And but they call it the gateway drug. Now, is that true, or because in my opinion, the gateway drug is actually alcohol?
Well, I have a different viewpoint on gateway drugs just from work. I was a social worker. I worked down in Miami doing direct care with urban youth, and saw a lot of people that drinking, smoking marijuana, doing other drugs. I worked with juvenile justice kids, it was the Department of Juvenile Justice in Florida. It's different here, but the gateway drug that I found was actually not a drug at all, in my personal opinion. It was more of access to the other drugs through having to use illegal means in order to get it. I mean, if you had somebody that wanted to try a joint, these were not kids that would have sought out heroin, would not have sought out cocaine. It's this kind of like, okay, I want to try pot, and then they go and talk to a person that, is selling these things, and then because they have to go in the black market, then they are gaining access to all of these other things. And, I'm 40 years old, and I encountered this 20 years ago when I was living in Maryland. So, I mean, I remember, and I can only imagine it's worse now, because when I moved here to Massachusetts, I was shocked by the opioid crisis here. I absolutely was, because I'd never heard of so much heroin usage in a rural area. I'd been down in Miami. Cocaine was the big thing, alcohol, and, gateway drug. It's kind of like, well, some people drink alcohol, and they can just drink alcohol, and they don't have an issue with it. And I was in France, people drink all the time, and, it's a cultural element. We have this level of, in my opinion, there's this component of abstinence which creates rebellion and then makes us this, like, human nature almost, where we kind of seek out things that are banned, and it's like if you want to make somebody of a certain personality type try something, just tell them that they cannot have it in any way, shape, or form, and then they may abuse it. and that's what I would see as a social worker when I was working
I know
with these
exactly
kids.
what you're saying.
And the reason that is that because actually, I'm coming up on 22 years of the first day of my life, and that's not my age. And it seems like when talking to other people, and especially in the beginning, it always seems, and I bring up alcohol, because it always seems when that's what the first thing they did was so easy to get, either borrowing from their parents' liquor cabinet or finding the place, especially back 20, 30 years ago, the package store or someone to buy for you. So that's why I bring it up, where on that end. So really, you're saying alcohol, again, wasn't really the gateway drug. It's really kind of hard to find?
Well, I mean, I can't say that for any person. I mean, people have different predispositions for addiction, based on family factors, whether it be biological or some type of social element. I'm not going to, that's just a much deeper discussion, and there's a lot of research that's been done on those different elements. But, as far as marijuana being a gateway drug, I just think I don't agree with that.
Yeah, so
and
going
that's
after...
me being very, very nice about it.
So going after stuff you're not supposed to have is the original high. Like,
well,
going...
Think that, it's somebody, they're gaining access to the black market by it being illegal. And,
Right.
I mean, they're not going to... There are all these different restrictions. The bill that, for the recreational piece, I mean, the piece of legislation that MassCan NORML is trying to push forward, I mean, it places restrictions on marijuana advertising, prohibits the advertisement of different packages like the cartoon characters, just trying to create, strict warning labels, very similar to what we have in place for the medical marijuana. I mean, this is not something that NORML or MassCan is taking lightly at all. I mean, this is, we don't want this to go into the hands of children, and that there's alcohol. We just want what we believe the intention of the voters was that this initiative was going to regulate marijuana like alcohol. And, I mean, there are I can send you other things on studies that were done at the Washington University School of Medicine that examined data on drug use in young people, that just showed that as more states legalized marijuana, a lot of adolescents' problems with pot declined. There were just fewer adolescents were reporting using marijuana because there just wasn't that same black market, and people were... I mean, there's a lot to get into it. That could be a whole separate show.
Right. Now, definitely, we'll have that one. We definitely want to have you on again. But, no, there are different studies from both sides. I came across one from a Dr. Aditi Kalla, who's a cardiology fellow from the...
Aditi Kalla?
Yes. From the Einstein Medical Center in Philadelphia. Is that a real place?
I'm sorry?
Aditi Kalla is his name, yeah.
Okay.
And his research comes up with people who smoke marijuana are 26% more likely to have a stroke of some point in their life and 10% more likely to develop heart failure. Is that a study that has been out there?
I mean, it's obviously, I mean, it's out there. I don't know what this Einstein Medical Center.
Yeah.
I mean, was it a longitudinal study? I mean, or was it just, did they put a bunch of surveys together? There's so many ways that studies are created. I mean, if you could have one over time that can go for years, or it could be, is it just a survey? Or is there actual medical research where they're going through and checking people, and what are the confounding variables that could be associated with this? Are they taking those into consideration? I mean, I've done research when I was doing my master's in social work, as I've was working in mental health, so I studied some things, mental health and substance abuse related. And the design of the study is critical. But when someone just reads the results without looking at the design, it's often deceiving.
And another big thing,
and without knowing what that is entailed, I can't answer.
Believe me, I just came across this on Live Science, so it could, again, it didn't really say what type of study it was. So, something that we can discuss next time. The other thing, though, is wouldn't it be best to legalize marijuana, start with because one of the big issues of the expense is because it is illegal, like the way alcohol was, and those from the shadier parts, the mafia, could make money off it. And once it became legal again, there was no money into it. Same thing you see when they try to bring it across the border or here in the United States. Because of the danger of it, would that be a big effect of legalizing it and making it less dangerous?
Well, I think I feel like your question's twofold.
We got a minute and a half. I'm sorry.
Let's see if I can reframe it. I believe, and I believe this because of studies and facts that I have found, that, the idea is to legalize it to eliminate the black market, which is crime and all of what you just stated. I mean, mafia, sure, there's all different forms of drug dealers and, related to crime, and, making sure that the black market is eliminated. That's why in our bill, we're trying to reduce the new tax imposed on the marijuana sale by 1.75%, because we want to make sure that there's still not going to be a black market even after legalization. Because if we have the tax so high and the prices are so high within the dispensaries, then it's not going to eliminate the black market, and then it's counterproductive.
Yeah, it'd be like a speakeasy, and then you'd slip into somebody's basement to go pick it up,
Okay. Well, we're coming up to 4 o'clock, so we have to take a break. We're especially happy that you came on. Can we count on you to come again, and we'll discuss this more in depth?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate the invite, and I've enjoyed speaking with you.
Okay. Well,
very much.
No problem. That was Attorney Tara Hopper Zeltner, who is specializing in healthcare and law and regulations, and making at least medicinal marijuana illegal. We're going to be right back after this break. And station ID, you're listening to Stand Up Strong with Ed and Chuck.